If you really want to build bigger arms, you've probably heard all the old advice, right? Just do more curls. You gotta lift heavy, shock the muscle. But what if I told you the real secret isn't some old gym myth? It's actually baked right into the science. Today, we're gonna build the ultimate blueprint for your arms, and we're using only the latest, cutting-edge research. This isn't guesswork. This is your evidence-based plan for actual, noticeable growth. Let's get right into it.
But first, let me ask you something. Do you ever feel like you're putting in the hours, you're hitting the curls, you're doing endless pushdowns, but your arms just refuse to grow? You know, you look in the mirror, you're feeling a little stuck, maybe even frustrated, and the progress just isn't matching the effort. If that sounds familiar, you are in exactly the right place. Because we're going to change that, right here, right now. We're going to deconstruct the science, piece by piece, and build you an actionable, no-nonsense plan for arm growth. No more guessing games, just a clear, effective blueprint to get you the results you've been working for.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the #1 rule for growth you just can't ignore. Then we'll find the exact magic number for training volume. I'll show you how to pick exercises to sculpt every single fiber of your arms, and then we'll perfect every last rep. After that, we'll talk about what happens outside the gym before we put it all together in your ultimate blueprint. Let's build this thing.
Okay, first things first. Before we even think about specific exercises or how many sets to do, we have to understand the one thing that actually drives all muscle growth. Seriously, this is the foundation our entire blueprint is built on.
And that engine? It's called progressive overload. The best way to think about it is like leveling up in a video game. You can't get stronger by fighting the same little level 1 monsters over and over, right? You have to face bigger, tougher challenges to level up. Well, your muscles are exactly the same. You have to continually increase the demand on them by lifting heavier weight, doing more reps, improving your form to force them to adapt and grow. I'm not kidding. If you ignore this one principle, nothing else we talk about today will matter.
All right, so we've got our core principle locked in. Now let's talk about the first big variable in our blueprint, training volume. Just how much work do you actually need to do to see serious results? Well, science has a surprisingly clear answer for us.
And here it is. Turns out, multiple meta-analyses, and that's a study of a bunch of other studies, they've all kind of zeroed in on this sweet spot for muscle growth. For both your biceps and your triceps, the research points to a target of 12 to 20 total sets per week. And that's not a random number someone pulled out of a hat. It's a powerful, evidence-based target that gives you a crystal clear goal for your weekly training.
But here's the catch. You don't want to cram all 20 sets into one giant marathon arm day. And science tells us why. See, after a workout, your body's muscle-building signal, it's called muscle protein synthesis, is only really elevated for about 24 to 48 hours. So it's way more effective to split that volume up. Train your arms 2, maybe 3 times a week, aiming for about 6 to 8 really high-quality sets per muscle each time. This keeps you fresh, lets you lift with way more intensity, and basically flips that growth switch on more often.
So we know the main principle, and we have our volume target. Now for the really fun part of the blueprint. Choosing the right exercises. Because it turns out what you do is just as important as how much you do, especially if you want arms that look balanced and well-developed from every angle.
And this brings us to this really cool concept called regional hypertrophy. Basically, it's the idea that you can't just think of your bicep or tricep as one big muscle. Nope, they're made up of different heads or sections. And the cool part is, different exercises can target and grow these different sections more than others. Think of yourself like a sculptor. You wouldn't just hit a block of marble from one angle, would you? Of course not. You'd work it from all sides to create a masterpiece. We need to do the exact same thing with our arms. So let's get specific. You want that classic bicep peak, right? That tall part of the muscle? That comes from developing the long head, which is on the outside of your arm. The secret here is to put it under a really deep stretch with exercises like incline curls where your arm is actually behind your body. And what about that overall thickness and width? Well, that's the short head's job. You can hammer that with exercises like preacher curls where your arm is out in front of you. A truly great arm workout has to include both.
And the same exact idea applies to the triceps, which, by the way, make up about 2/3 of your upper arm mass, so they're super important. Now, the lateral and medial heads get plenty of work with things like pushdowns, but the long head, that's the real game changer. See, it's the only part that crosses your shoulder joint, so to fully train it, you have to get your arm overhead. Get this, one study found that doing overhead extensions led to almost 50% more growth in the long head than standard pushdowns. Think about that for a second. That one little change could totally transform your arm development.
All right, we've got our volume, we've picked our exercises. Now let's zoom in even closer and talk about how to perfect every single rep.
This is where we get to bust some of those old gym myths and apply some of the newest and honestly most surprising findings from the lab.
For years, we've all been told that full range of motion is king. And you know what? It's great. But recent research has uncovered a new secret weapon. Partial reps, but done specifically in the stretched part of an exercise. So, for example, doing preacher curls, but only performing the bottom half of the movement, where your bicep is at its longest. That's been shown to create more muscle growth than doing full range of motion reps. Now, don't go replacing all your full reps, but maybe try adding a set or two of these stretched partials at the end of an exercise. It is a seriously powerful tool to have in your toolbox.
Now for another huge shift in thinking. Do you really have to go to absolute failure on every single set? The science on this is incredibly clear. Nope, not at all. Research shows that stopping your set when you still have 1 or 2 good reps left in the tank, we call this reps in reserve or RIR, it produces pretty much the exact same muscle growth as going to failure. The huge advantage? It creates way less fatigue. That means you recover faster, you can handle more quality workouts throughout the week, and you lower your risk of injury. It's really about training smarter, not just harder.
Look, we've totally dialed in our training plan, but that's only half the battle. Muscle isn't built in the gym. You're actually breaking it down in the gym. It's built when you recover. So let's quickly lock in the final, absolutely non-negotiable pieces of our blueprint that happen outside the gym doors.
Just think of this as your growth checklist. Number 1, rest between your sets. Give yourself a good 90 seconds to 3 minutes so you can come back strong for the next set. Number 2, fuel. You gotta be eating enough protein. Aim for 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of your body weight every single day. Number 3, consider creatine. 3 to 5 grams a day is one of the most proven supplements out there for boosting strength and muscle. And finally, and this one is huge, sleep. 7 to 9 hours a night. This is non-negotiable, people. It's literally when your body does the hard work of building you bigger arms.
Okay, this is it. This is the moment we've been building towards. We've gone over the core principles, the volume, the right exercises, the perfect technique, and recovery. Now let's assemble all of it into one complete, actionable blueprint.
And here it is, your master reference guide. Seriously, go ahead and screenshot this right now. This is your entire plan on one slide. Hitting arms 2 to 3 times a week, getting in 12 to 20 sets total, making sure you're hitting all the different muscle heads, resting properly, stopping just a rep or 2 shy of failure, and controlling every rep. This is the blueprint.
So what does this actually look like in a workout? Here's a sample day 1. We're starting with the big, heavy compound lifts like chin-ups and close grip bench press. Then we move into that targeted isolation work. See how we're using incline curls to hit that bicep long head and then preacher curls for the short head? Same for triceps. Overhead extensions for the long head and push downs for the others. We're ticking every single box we just talked about.
And here's a sample day 2, which you could do a few days later. Again, we'd kick things off with a heavy compound lift, weighted dips, and then we move into more isolation work that really complements what we did on day 1. This whole setup makes sure you're getting that perfect frequency and volume spread throughout the week, hitting the muscles from different angles for that complete, balanced look.
So, let's wrap this all up. The big takeaway from all this research is pretty simple. Great arms aren't just something you're born with. They are constructed, systematically. They are built rep by rep, set by set, using a smart, science-backed blueprint just like the one we've put together for you today.
So, the blueprint is yours now. You have the science. So my question for you is this. What is the number 1 biggest change you're going to make to your training this week based on what you've learned here today? Let me know. Drop your answer down in the comments below. I'm really curious to see what clicks for you.
And hey, if this blueprint was helpful for you, do me a quick favor and hit that like button. It really does help out the channel. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the next science-based explainer. Thanks so much for watching. Now go build those arms.